Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Just recently we covered Russian armored vehicle attacks near Dobropilya direction that they've conducted couple of days in a row, and just how atrociously bad it went for Russia with these attacks. Especially the last one, in which we saw Russian vehicles actually sinking in water due to the local weather conditions. And we thought that most likely this is the end. We will not see Russia do anything that stupid for a while now. Well, Russia decided to essentially hold my beer and go forward with it anyway. Another attack occurred in the same area with the outcomes that you can already guess. More than that, Putin is trying to put Russia back on the world stage. It's not really succeeding him much. And Russia is using sex spies to get the secrets from the Silicon Valley. So all of these news and more in today's Ukraine Daily News Show. Let's begin. So surprising everyone, we got notifications of Russia attacking in the Dobropilya direction with armored columns once again. And Deep State decided to publish the videos from that area coming from the Azov regiment, where they saw a lot of armored vehicles actually moving towards the direction of Volodymyrovka once again. This time Russians employed 29 armored vehicles, and they put a lot of heavy emphasis specifically on having armored tanks in these attacks. Russia also tried to be a bit more sneaky this time. Instead of driving all 29 vehicles in a single column, they spread out, sort of try to infiltrate tactic that they're doing with their personnel. They're trying to do the same tactic now with the armored vehicles, where vehicles would kind of go and spread out in small groups of 3-4 vehicles, and then they kind of get together at certain stages and try to get forward. Well, unfortunately, it go about as well as you can see it right now. It got absolutely demolished, and more than that, it is now confirmed that even Russians that were able to reach supposedly their final destination are actually already reaching the other final destination thanks to Ukrainian defenders. And a lot of you might also start asking, but what about other parts of Pokrovsk? We hear that Russia are advancing somewhere here and there. And I understand those arguments, and for that we have a frontline update segment specifically happening on this channel, weekly or bi-weekly, depending on how much action there is on the front line. But most important is that while what is happening on the front line is very important, I try to bounce off of data when we're talking and discussing what exactly is happening on the front line. Very often these situations don't really account for everything. So for example, here I'm looking at the last couple of weeks of how fast Russia has been advancing and capturing Ukrainian territory. And as you can see, it hasn't changed much. Russia is not having more success than it had in the last, over 5 weeks. It's been pretty similar. That means only one thing and one thing only, that the assumptions on what is default, that Russia has more resources and is willing to sacrifice more resources to advance, and Ukraine is exchanging territory for dead Russians, is still working, and there is no big Russian breakthrough. It's all part of just regular war action. Then we got some pitiful attempts by Vlad the Short to try to put Russia back on the world stage, because Russia took some heavy L's in recent days, so now he's trying to engage his media machine to get some hype going. We talked already about the statements about Ukrainians being encircled anywhere on the front line, and that it was absolutely not true, yet we still saw some of the Western media quoting Putin and actually approaching Ukrainians with these questions. Absolute fools that even now, 3.5 years into the war, they cannot understand that you cannot really believe anything that Russians are saying. But more importantly, there is also another statement by Russians about their new super weapon. They actually discussed 2 super weapons. One was missile that was flying infinitely over the globe and then can it strike from whatever direction, and that one is stupid for one reason. And then they also stated that they successfully tested their super nuclear missile drone that is able to obliterate the United Kingdom in one explosion that they have been advertising for the last couple of years. Well, the fact of the matter is, I don't want to take it factually because this is literally this case. This is Russia repeating this meme time and time and time again. For a while now, we didn't hear it, but now Russia is in a weak position. They are running out of cards. Everyone is seeing them for who they are, absolute losers. And they are like, no, 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 we are a nuclear superpower. Don't do it to us. So the only reaction that Putin's words are producing in me is yawning. But if we're talking about memes, let's talk about some Jaga Jaga memes by the artist of Jaga Jaga, Mr. Madyar himself. Ukraine strikes 2 oil refineries, gas plant in Russia, military confirms. Ukraine's Special Operation Forces carried out deep strikes attacks overnight 29th on 2 oil refineries and gas processing facilities in Russia, the General Staff and Special Operation Forces Command confirm. One of the attacks targeted the oil refinery in the village of Novospaskaya, Ulyanovsk Oblast. The plant handles around 600 tons of oil annually, about 0.2% of Russia's total refining capacity, and produces gasoline, diesel, and fuel. Another strike hit an oil refinery in the village of Tabashino, Mariel Republic, where fires and explosions were reported. The facility has a capacity of 1.3 million tons per year, roughly 0.5% of Russia's total refining output. Ukrainian drones also struck gas processing plant in Budyanovsk, Stavropol Krai, targeting the production facilities, and so on. There was a lot more strikes, but I want to underscore that this is just to the show and repeat to everyone that things are happening and Russia is being set ablaze by Madyar and other people from the Ukrainian Defense Forces. Crimea is still a problem, and we see that Crimea is being attacked by drones, oil depots on fire in Gvardiysky and Simferopol. On the morning of October 29th, the temporary occupied Crimea was attacked by drones, after which fires broke out in the village of Gvardiysky in Simferopol district in Simferopol. The video posted on the Telegram channel shows thick black smoke rising and spreading from 2 fires. One fire has closer to the left of Simferopol, and the other was further away to the right in Gvardiysky. So we see general campaign to completely defuelify, if I can say so, Crimea, and all of the facilities that could hold oil are now being non-stop targeted in Crimea. It is basically allowing Ukraine to smother Russian assets within Crimea, even without destroying them directly. Meanwhile, security services of Ukraine have actually attacked anti-air assets inside Crimea as well, striking Pantsir air defense system and 2 radars. Quote, the Russians have lost a Pantsir surface-to-air missile system worth around 20 millions, one of the key components of their air defense network. Ukrainian resistance is also operating in Russia, and I continue highlighting their operations. They blow up a railway in the occupied territory of Ukraine in Zaporizhia direction. In temporary occupied territory of the Zaporizhia region, the Ukrainian resistance movement has executed another sabotage against Russian military logistics. On October 26, an explosion occurred on a railroad section near the village of Stulneve in Berdyansk district. According to the sources in the resistance movement, a railroad track was blown up as the enemy train was passing. As a result of explosions, a locomotive, 10 railroad cars, and 1 cover platform were derailed. Railroad traffic in the area is completely stopped. The invasion's emergency services are conducting the investigation and clearing the debris. This is the type of war that is not often reported, and I always feel happy reporting that even on the occupied territories and deep inside Russia itself, there are partisans active that we will find out only after the war. Thank you to them, and we really love and support you all the way. Yesterday we talked about Russian industry being in decline, and today we actually have an example case that demonstrates that decline specifically. Ashinsky metallurgical plant in Chelyabinsk region is one of Russia's largest producers of special alloys for the defense industrial complex. It is now shutting down its stainless steel production shop and laying off over 300 employees. Defense-focused industry leader that is working with stainless steel is laying off 300 people and shutting itself down during a wartime. According to the center, these reductions at the AMZ indicates broader spread of problems within Russia's defense industry. Beginning in September, the defense industrial complex, which for the last 3 years had served as the main driver for the Russian economy, thanks to huge budget infusions, began losing ground. Economists attribute this to budget exhaustion and a reduction of state orders. The Kremlin can no longer fund the war without limit. Even defense industry enterprises are no longer able to withstand the burden caused by war. The defense industrial complex, which has helped the economy from collapsing during the full-scale invasion, is now gradually turning into a drag on the economy. We have some unfortunate news that really paint the antagonism that China is developing more and more towards our Western world and really joining forces with the axis of evil. China has been supplying both Russia and Ukraine with drone components, more like allowing Russia and Ukraine to buy these drone components. However, in the last couple of months, we saw a definitive political shift of China being more favorable to Russia and less favorable to the Western powers, Europeans, and also Ukraine. Now we see that there is an additional pressure in China rising, and companies within China that are producing vital components for drones are slowly, gradually reducing the supply of these components to Ukraine. This is once again showing Chinese alignment, as China is building more component supplies to Russia, including building a whole railway supply chain directly from factories in China to the Russian production facilities in, for example, Alabaga, to build Shaheeds and other drones. And more than that, President Zelensky outlines that Chinese are actually not supplying Russia with just the components, but also providing the machinery that can make the weapons to kill Ukrainians and impose destruction on European soil. Quote, "My message is very simple. We had a phone conversation with Xi Jinping, and he assured me that China would not sell weapons to the Russians. However, we see that China has supplied the Russian Federation with machinery used for weapons, the production. We also see that China is helping Moscow circumvent sanctions, and we've seen Chinese mercenaries fighting against Ukrainian troops. Right now, Russia is fully dependent on China. As we talked earlier today, the economy of Russia is not doing well, so the only hope they're having is to have support from the big brother that they're ready to sell their souls and also their land, to be honest. China is the only victor of this awful war, and it is atrocious to see that we are not putting enough pressure on Chinese to stop this." Another Russian occupier that has been linked to war crimes in Ukraine has now been improved by the Ukrainian forces. The officer Veniamin Mazherin, born in 1980, served in the OMON Special Unit Obereg, one of several Russian units implicated in atrocities in the Kyiv region during the 2022 invasion. The officer was born in 1980, served in the Special Unit and part of the National Guard of Russia in Kemerovo region. Obereg is among several Russian units implicated in atrocities in the Kyiv region during Russian full-scale invasion in February-March 2022, including killings of civilians, forced deportations, and other crimes against Ukrainian population. The blast occurred in a yard of a house in Kalinovo, Kadiyivka City community, where 6 Russian soldiers were staying with a military vehicle, according to Ukrainian intel. The explosion destroyed 2 pickup trucks with mounted machine guns, a UAZ military vehicle loaded with ammunition, and killed 3 soldiers. 2 others were severely injured, but most importantly, taking out the person responsible for war crimes. The world just got a little bit cleaner. Ex-Russian spy reveals on how Russian agents are seducing Silicon Valley experts. Russian spy Alina Rosa shared that Russian and Chinese intelligence services actively use so-called honey traps to steal technological secrets from the US. Quote, "They want information and they'll do whatever it takes to get it," said Rosa, who was trained in sexual espionage as a teenager. She is now promoting her book as she lives in the Los Angeles area. According to her, recruitment often begins with accidental encounters at the gym, in cafes, or in social media, where the agent gradually earns the target's trust. And more specifically, they try to portray themselves as being in need to try to trigger so-called savior complex in the men that are ready to help out a woman. While this case specifically describes the Silicon Valley, this is just a glimpse in one of those tactics that Russia is using to obtain information and spy and influence our politics and our top-ranking officials. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Click the subscribe button so more people can see it. It helps with YouTube algorithms. Guys, I want to mention once again that the shop is going to be closing down at the end of October. This is your basically the last chance to, if you want to get anything from the shop. Again, I was not satisfied with the quality. I will be trying to work and set up connections with Ukrainians that produce stuff in Ukraine and help Ukrainian armed forces to make sure that you get produce of highest quality and that the earnings from these products will help Ukraine as much as possible. In any case, thank you so much for watching. I love you. Slava Ukraini, and I will see you next time.